Hello dear guys, this is Anil Kumar Shrivastava from Mobishala. Download this app, go there and watch all the uploaded videos, lectures, discussions, etc. We are in fact having a discussion on a GS paper second, that is Polity, Governance and Constitution, asked by the UPSC in its various mains examinations. So if you want to watch all such videos, lectures, etc., in fact we are discussing the strategy, we are discussing the questions and answer to the questions already being asked by the UPSC or being already asked by the UPSC, and we are also discussing the content, in fact the regular lecture topics of the regular lecture. For example, right now we are discussing the underpinning, historical underpinning, but today we are going to have a discussion on the UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which has been recently in news when the High Court, Delhi High Court, in fact granted bail to 3 accused in the Delhi riot case. The Delhi High Court made an observation. It was a castigation of the mishandling of the case by the Delhi police. So say we would be looking at such a different one, how the UAPA evolved and how it finally came to be amended in 2008, and what are the provisions that had been slapped against the 3 accused, including Kalita and others. I would like to tell you that we are going to discuss all such issues. We are also going to discuss the role of the NIA. In fact, you may have heard that yesterday a drone dropped some explosive material in the airfield of Jammu. In fact, in the campus of the airfield of Jammu, it targeted the technical facilities available there, and the investigation is still going on. This investigation is being carried out by the NIA, National Investigation Agency. So what is the role of the NIA, and is NIA professional enough to handle such cases? Why and what prompted the government to create NIA in 2008? In fact, we are going to discuss all such issues. So let me start discussing the UAPA. UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. (1967). Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967. It was amended several times since 1969, during 1980s, and recently in 2008 in the aftermath of the terrorist attack on Mumbai. So we would be looking in fact to the structure and pattern of the UAPA's law, what I mean to say, as per its latest amendment. Let me start this one. UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act was primarily passed in 1967 to deal with the radical left or leftist movement in India. In fact, Naxal movement is an offshoot of the radical left movement. It was in May 1967 that the left got split into two parts. One claiming itself to be the followers of Lenin, Vladimir Lenin, while another claimed itself to be follower of the Marxist. Further there were divisions. In fact, one faction started following the ideology of the Mao Zedong, Mao Zedong as we know him, and another one started following a less, you can say rather moderate ideology of Vladimir Lenin. In between, in fact, Marxist-Leninist started gaining ground and started gathering mass. They gradually shot into limelight with Charu Majumdar writing his historic 8 documents, in fact, in which he propagated the cult of violence, and he wanted the poor tribes to take to the cult of violence, and in fact, through the violence route, they should ask for their rights, or they should go for pressing for their rights. However, Srimati Indira Gandhi government sensed it, and in 1971, under Operation Steeplechase, Charu Majumdar was caught and he was made to die. In fact, he is believed to have been brutally, lathi charged by the police, local police. Later, he succumbed to his injuries. I would like to tell you that this is the history of the UAPA, its application, and the state of law and order. However, during 1980s, Rajiv Gandhi government got it amended to deal with different insurgencies in the northeast and also in parts of southern India linked to Tamil Eelam activists, or you can say Tamil Eelam terrorists. But I would like to tell you, in 2008, what happened. I would like to tell you a brief background to this one. In 2002, Vajpayee government got passed POTA. POTA, in fact, was the first anti-terror law that defined terrorism. Though in 1985, Rajiv Gandhi government got passed TADA, Terrorist and Disruptionist Activities Prevention Act, but it did not define terrorism. It was in fact a stringent preventive law, as has been there under Article 22. In fact, it was an exception to Article 22, as it is enumerated there under Section 4 of Article 22, 3 and 4, what I mean to say. And I would like to tell you, it meant solely, or in fact, it was directed primarily to deal with the terrorism in Kashmir, in Punjab. But TADA was so stringent that it came in for severe criticism from different quarters. For example, it provided that anyone confessing to his guilt before an inspector rank police officer in fact will be treated as a witness, and whatever he says, whatever his statement is, shall be treated as evidence before a court of law. Similarly, a charge sheet could be filed against that guy within 180 days, though in normal circumstances it is done within 90 days. Further, the burden of proof shall lie on the shoulder of the guilty. In other words, in normal criminal justice system, what we have, that the burden of proof lies on the shoulder of the prosecuting agencies, what I mean to say, the police. But in this one, it lay on the shoulders of the the guilty, or you can say of the person against whom a case or some activity has been slapped, or say in fact alleged to have been committed by that guy. So it lay on the burden of proof in fact lay on the shoulders of the person found guilty of committing something. In fact, the police, the only job that police could do was to slap a case against him, and later he was made to in fact prove himself innocent. It is against all the canons of the criminal justice system. That's why it was allowed to die its natural death in 1995 by Narasimha Rao government. In fact, it was not revived, as TADA was primarily passed for 10 years. So, from 1985 to 1995, it was allowed to die its natural death. I would like to tell you that later, in fact, when Vajpayee government felt, especially after 2001 terrorist attack at Parliament, that the government needed a very tough law to having more teeth to tackle terrorist activity. So it got passed POTA. Earlier it was in fact promulgated as ordinance with the name POTO, Prevention of Terrorism Ordinance. Later in a joint sitting it was passed as POTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act. I would like to tell you, when Dr. Manmohan Singh government came to power in 2004, it repealed POTA. This way the government lost all the teeth that were meant there to fight against a case of terrorism. In 2008, however, the government sorely feel that yes, it needed a tough law to deal with the act of terrorism, since it had already done so in order to address its constituency, which in fact hovered around the minority appeasement, what I would like to tell you. But later, when in 2008 a terrorist attacked Bombay and invested it with their sinister design, so the government ran helter-skelter to look for a tougher law. But since it did not have this one, and it could not revive POTA, because reviving POTA would have put it in fact in a poor condition, would have shown it in a poor condition. So it decided to amend the UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, several provisions of TADA and POTA were inserted, except one thing that was deliberately left out, and that was the burden of proof should not lie on the shoulder of the accused. I would like to tell you, earlier the burden of proof lay on the shoulder of the accused in previous two in fact legal structures, but in this one it was left out. However, it was opined that a case that involves terrorist activities should be, in that case in fact a charge sheet should be filed within 180 days in place of 90 days as is the usual case. So in 180 days a charge sheet has to be filed. In other words, and also I would like to tell you that or in other words you can say that a person could be kept in custody up to 6 months without trial. So this is still a very stringent provision. This has been slapped against the unknown terrorist who carried out the bombings of the airport technical facilities at Jammu yesterday. Recently, so many cases have been slapped, or so many cases in fact have been dealt with by the different agencies, you can say under UAPA. I would like to tell you the similar case happened in 2019 and 2020 when as a mark of protest against CAA, that is Citizenship Amendment Act, a team of protesters sat on dharna in Delhi and they blocked some roads also, and some of them in fact were involved in hatching conspiracy. So the Delhi police came out with this theory of say conspiracy and slapped UAPA stringent provisions against them. It was against this backdrop that we would be discussing the UAPA. I would like to tell you some of the most notable features of UAPA as amended in 2008, further amended in 2012. It includes economic offenses. In fact, in 2008-12, economic offenses were also included in this one. Definition of terrorism has been expanded. In fact, the definition of terrorism as taken from POTA has been expanded to include offenses that threaten the country's economic security, procurement of weapons, raising funds for terrorist activities, and counterfeiting Indian currency. It also provides additional power to courts to attach or forfeit the property equivalent to the counterfeit Indian currency involved in the offense, or to the value of proceeds of terrorism involved in the offense. NIA Act 2008 in fact defines broadly what terrorism constitutes, or what then constituted terrorism. Use of any explosives, I would like to tell you, be it say RDX or PETN or any low grade or high grade explosives, funding terror activities, organizing training camps and recruiting persons for committing terror acts shall also be covered under this and be punishable with at least 5 years imprisonment. Acting, abetting or committing a terrorist act shall be punishable with imprisonment to 10 years. Use of bombs, dynamite, poison or noxious gases, biological and radioactive nuclear substances are all terror acts. It has been defined under the UAPA to be read with NIA Act 2008. So we would be looking at different provisions of 2008. I would like to tell you that under 2008, the most important aspect say that has been slapped under the say alleged terrorists or terrorist activities, those involved in terrorist activities, against those who are involved in terrorist activities, is in fact the extension of custody for such people for 180 days without trial. I would like to tell you that it was due to this that NIA in fact invoked UAPA against the perpetrators of Delhi riots last year. However, due to sufficient, or you can say ample evidences, the Delhi High Court in fact not only criticized the acts of the Delhi police and if at all it has been assisted by NIA, but it also let free all the 3 accused and granted them bail. In fact, they had been say released on bail. They had not been in fact absolved all charges, but certainly UAPA provisions, as the Delhi High Court found out, had been harsh. In fact, they should not have been imposed in the first place against such persons or on such persons. I would like to tell you that in 2008, say the special NIA Act to be read by the UAPA provided that human trafficking, narcotics, drugs, organized crime such as extortion, plane hijacking and violation of Atomic Energy Act and weapons of mass destruction, anything, all such in fact thing would be treated as a terrorist activities. So today we are here to discuss the UAPA Act, especially UAPA Act and NIA Act. UAPA (2000) to be read with NIA Act 2008. it defines and expands the meaning and scope of terrorism. No constraint on filing charge sheet before 6 months. The accused could be kept in custody for 6 months without a trial. This is UAPA to be read with NIA Act, as I had told you. NIA, National Investigation Agency, created in 2008, acts as a federal agency. Dealing with cases of terrorism, dealing with cases of extremism and terrorism. It is a premier agency whose main task is to look into or investigate all cases that have oblique references to terrorism or extremism, or that have as mainstream charge a direct reference to terrorism or extremism. In other words, any activity that is one way or the other related to terrorist activities come under the lens of this premier agency, the NIA, National Investigation Agency. The NIA is headed by a senior IPS officer of the rank of Police Commissioner of Delhi, or of the rank of DGP of a state, Director General of Police of a state. I would like to tell you that such agency or such person in fact is appointed by the government, by the central government. State governments have hardly any say in this regard. On the references made by the NIA, however, the state government can constitute special courts for hearing cases related to terrorist activities that happened in that state. Besides the Union Home Ministry, it comes under the Union Home Ministry. Besides the Union Home Ministry, the state government too can order for investigation after making the request to the center, and can also constitute a special NIA court for day-to-day hearing, so that the disposal of cases should be speedier, quicker, what I mean to say. I would like to tell you, since in 2008, a massive terrorist activity took place in Bombay, claiming more than 160 lives, with several of the terrorists being killed. Out of, in fact, 7 terrorists, 6 had been eliminated in the action. One, Ajmal Kasab, was in fact he was caught alive, and he was later made to undergo different legal trials from different courts, and finally he was hanged. I would like to tell you that after Bombay's attack, the government groped about in the dark, but finally it stumbled upon UAPA. It was virtually a dead law that had been revived in 2008 with the inclusion of some of the provisions, or a number of provisions, of the TADA and POTA, except a few ones. For example, the burden of proof it was not allowed under this one to lie on the shoulders of the accused. Rather, the prosecuting agency had to in fact provide the burden of proof. In fact, to prove oneself innocent, against the system at a time when one is in custody is not only difficult, but it is an uphill task. So, if the burden of proof lies on the shoulder of the accused, it is likely that the accused would become convict, would suffer, and finally the dragnet of law, in fact, would suffer the ignominy of undergoing imprisonment, despite the fact that he is not directly involved in a case or he is absolutely innocent. So, this was in fact not included in this. Now it is the duty of the prosecuting agency to do this one. Further, in 2012, it was amended by it was in fact amended when Dr. Manmohan Singh government was there, and economic offences and other related aspects were included in this one. So, I would like to tell you that UAPA provisions should be read with NIA, and UAPA provisions in fact right now are squarely being used to target the terrorist groups or to punish those who are involved in extremist or terrorist activities. By extremism, I mean Naxals and other extremist or militant groups active in the northeast region of India, and also in other parts like MCC, Maoist Communist Center, PWG, People's War Group. They are in fact offshoots or splinter groups of the Naxal movement, or you can say outfits of the Naxal movement. So, I would like to tell you UAPA could also be applied against them, as they are engaged in committing in fact murders, or in fact committing while taking to the cult of violence, committing say actions, or committing in fact say you can say sins against the state, so that they could be treated or they could be declared as a traitor, and this way UAPA could be slapped against them. In fact, it was the case that brought 3 accused in Delhi riot case for hatching conspiracy against the state under the UAPA. However, I would like to tell you, recently the Supreme Court held, while hearing the case of Vinod Dua, who has been in fact charged with treason, that is with anti-national activities, and he was booked under 124 section 124A of the IPC, which is there to declare someone as a traitor, or in fact to declare someone as say a person acting against the interest of the nation. So, if someone is a traitor, he is booked under this one, and if someone foments dissension, creates communal violence, communal hatred, or spreads communal hatred, and this way in fact sows the seed of dissension or division among the society, creates a state of disaffection and pits one community against another, he is say charged under section 153A of the IPC, that is dividing communities along caste and communal lines, that by in fact creating a sense of unease among them. I would like to tell you, the Supreme Court has struck it down, and in fact in Kedarnath Singh, famous case Kedarnath Singh versus State of Bihar 1962, the Supreme Court had already declared this one, or held that criticizing government does not mean that the person should be charged with anti-national law. I would like to tell you, however, in UAPA case, due to the vagueness of its provision, anyone indulging in a riotous case that in fact puts the security of the state under danger or in danger, that person could be charged with UAPA stringent provisions, or with stringent provisions of the UAPA. So, accordingly 3 persons had been charged. However, the Delhi High Court did not find any merit in the charge sheet of the Delhi police and released them. I would like to tell you, the local police could also investigate this one. However, while investigating, it could seek advisory pieces of advice from the NIA. NIA could assist them. It is not that every case be investigated by the NIA. NIA has also an advisory role to the government, and if the government seeks its advice, pieces of advice, the NIA can give that one. So I have discussed the UAPA case. Hope you would have got enough of it. Say why was it recently in news, and what happened yesterday, and why the NIA has been made to investigate the case. Thank you for watching this